In the throne room among the people, the prince knelt before the king, and the king angrily shouted that he was stripping him of the right to the throne and ordered him to leave immediately. However, the prince was already waiting for this moment and thanked his father, who again said in surprise that he really did not even intend to ask why he was being expelled. This happened in the kingdom of Gaitan Negan. The seventh prince Noah, rising from his knees, replied that it was because of his incompetence. The king responded that the main thing was that he understood this. In the father's opinion, he had no abilities at all. In this country, all heirs are equal, so they undergo the same training. Even without special talents, one can become king. Pointing a finger at the prince, the king said that he had neither the abilities nor the desire to become king, but his expulsion could cause unwanted rumors in the country. Therefore, he gives him the province of Carter, and outwardly it will look as if he was sent there to become a lord or something similar. Noah happily thanked him. The father did not understand what that was supposed to mean. At that moment, the sixth prince Doug, who possessed the skill of a holy swordsman, addressed him. Grabbing Noah by the collar, he shouted at him and asked what he was doing and whether he was really interested in the throne. After all, he was expelled and deprived of inheritance, so he did not understand where such calmness came from. And Noah thought that if he was going to be expelled, he would just wait until it was all over. He cheerfully said that it was very shameful because he wanted to become king so much. But these words only made the seventh prince angrier, who drew his sword and shouted that he annoyed him every time. The king watched them and thought that it was even worse when one heir to the throne tries to kill another in front of the chief monk. Doug struck so hard that the chandelier on the ceiling trembled. Noah fell to the floor, and the sword shattered into pieces. This confused the sixth prince, who was sitting on the floor. Noah said that he scared him. He did not notice the sword at all. He asked if he had missed on purpose because he was so pathetic, and the people around began to whisper, not understanding what had happened to the sword. They thought it was some kind of joke because the prince could not be wrong. The sudden shock confirmed Noah's words. He stood up, was about to leave, and at that moment a white cat with a bow approached him. Passing by Doug, he spoke about hiding skill. Doug thought that that time his sword moved faster than sound, and although it was stronger than dragon scales, it broke from a light blow, or so it seemed to him. He remembered how the seventh prince, during the strike with his own hand, grabbed his weapon, turned around to see how Noah was leaving, and shouted that he understood the reason. But he was already standing in a magic circle and smiled, saying that they would meet in 5 years. He promised to rest well on his lands. The king was puzzled, did not understand what that light was, and the sixth prince irritably ordered him to stop. But Noah did not listen, said goodbye, and disappeared. At first the hall was quiet, and then the king realized in horror that it was teleportation magic, possessed only by sages. Or maybe it was not so ancient, he thought. Meanwhile, the prince was riding in a carriage and reading a book. The white cat Rory asked him if he was really deprived of the right to the throne. He asked her if she had forgotten about his great plans. The familiar replied that she remembered. He smiled and said that losing the rights to the throne and exile to God-forsaken lands where no one even knew his name was all part of his plan. He joyfully added that he would finally be able to live as he wanted. His plan worked. Rory responded tenderly that he was glad when he was considered mediocre. Swordmaster, sage, living legend, hero who was reincarnated twice. In fact, he is very skilled. The familiar asked how such a thing could happen with the hero's third life. The hero asked her to listen carefully. He really was reincarnated twice and was a hero twice. Grabbing his head, he irritably added that being a swordmaster is very annoying. His whole life revolves around strength, and people keep throwing useless things at you. Heroes always attract extra attention and negativity, and when monsters appear, he is always sent to deal with them. And he was a hero twice and then realized that he does not like to work. This time he was reincarnated in a peaceful country as a prince, and ascending the throne promised only new troubles. So he decided to quit the race for power and pretend to be incapable of anything. They say he is talentless and practices magic, cannot properly hold a sword, and has a head full of water. Even during evaluation, he used magic to change the grade and appear incompetent, so he was considered an incompetent hooligan. The familiar replied that she had long wanted to tell him this, but he interrupted her and asked not to hate him for it. She is currently in cat form, so everything will be fine. And he began to open the carriage door, which surprised Rory. At that very moment, a large boulder fell on the carriage, literally crushing it and frightening the horse, and the cat in the carriage screamed loudly. The main hero managed to escape from there thanks to magic. Examining the stone, he guessed it was a meteorite or a boulder from a volcano, and at that moment his familiar called him. In the ruins sat an angry girl with cat ears and a tail, who said that if they were going to be attacked, they should have warned him in advance. He replied that he had warned her and that she was probably crazy. The irritated girl shouted that he was the only mad one here. He deflected the attack with superhuman speed because he was now using high magic. He calmly replied that she shouldn't talk nonsense. When he was a fencing master, even a child could create such magic. Rory replied that it was in the past. But then they heard a strange sound that scared her, and she asked what those footsteps were. Looking around, they saw the face of a giant creature with an open maw looming over the tree. They saw a giant turtle with a sharp shell towering over the trees, and with horror realized that it was a volcanic turtle, an S-rank monster. The main heroine was surprised that she was also scared because she herself was a demon. She was outraged that he had sealed her powers. Rory's true form was sealed in the archives. He locked her there when he was a child. The girl said that now was not the time to remember and asked what they could do. But the boy paraphrased her words, and this angered the girl. The turtle was hit hard right on the shell. It growled threateningly. Rory screamed in fright, saw that it was about to fall right on them, and began calling that boy. The main hero began to use creator magic, namely the blade. He prepared to strike the approaching fragment. He struck all the approaching units with one powerful blow, and cracks appeared everywhere. Rory's mouth opened in surprise when she saw the main character's magic. All the advancing stones were cut into tiny squares, which no longer posed a threat. Rory could not believe her eyes because they were shattered with one wave of his hand. She thought it was impossible. He calmly replied that he had broken it. When he was a sword master, even a mid-level adventurer could handle such a turtle. She replied that one should not consider the life of a sword master as a standard. Now were completely different times. At that moment the turtle roared, and they tried to understand what language it was speaking. Its roar irritated everyone around. After this, he began gathering a powerful energy ball in his hand so that it would disappear, and directed magic at it. His strike hit the target and caused a powerful explosion. Rory trembled and thought this was a new higher level of magic. But the man said no. He said it was an ordinary fireball. His attack left a furrow behind. He was upset about the broken carriage and only now thought that flying would be much easier. After this, he immediately took off. The confused girl screamed and did not understand why he left her, because she considered him too gifted for herself. The main hero was already calmly flying in the sky and felt like he had forgotten something. The girl looked at the main hero standing before her and saying he had saved her, and in her eyes he looked like an ancient hero. Earlier in Carter Province in the village of Ayin, people were worried. The girl said that monsters were raging again. The old man asked her not to worry so much. This place was protected by a magical barrier of an ancient hero, and above the city hung a large magical circle. In ancient times, when an ancient hero passed through this place, he established a protective barrier here. Therefore, the elder was confident that there was no need to worry. The city borders an unknown forest, dangerous and full of risks. Solist was worried about the very ancient barrier, and did not know if everything would be fine, when suddenly people noticed something in the sky. In the distance they saw the image of a volcanic turtle, an S-rank monster, and stood in the middle of the village stunned, looking at it. A powerful strike caused cracks in the ancient barrier. The girl realized it was beginning to collapse, and the monster became enraged. People believed that without the barrier they would perish and the place would be destroyed. They did not know what to do because everyone could become the monster's food. After this, they did not start running away in panic, despite the barrier in the village, and there were already many problems. For example, poverty. But this is Lista's home. She grew up there and must do something. She confidently walked towards the monster, and the people tried to understand what she was going to do. She shouted to them that she would hold back the monster. The girl was running, and the villagers tried to stop her. Behind, the silhouette of the monster was emerging. If she kept running, they would quickly catch up to him. But if this was a chance to lead him far from the village, she should try. Once the girl stumbled and fell to the ground. Lying in the middle of the wasteland, she was noticed by a turtle and she got scared. But at that moment she saw a carriage, above which the head of the monster towered. She was surprised that strangers were here and loudly shouted to them to run away. At that very moment, the monster attacked. But what she saw next happened instantly. Before her stood the main hero, who destroyed the ancient monster. She thought he saved her. The man she saw for the first time seemed to be torn from the pages of a children's fairy tale about ancient heroes. She was very happy about what was happening. At that moment, she noticed that Rory was calling him. She was sitting on the ground, angry because he had left her. He was good for nothing. She would have to transform into her flying form to catch up with him. After this, she changed her appearance and said that she had not taken the form of other animals for a long time, except for human and cat. This is exactly what Lista saw, who shouted that the creature was a monster. Meanwhile, the main hero arrived at the residence of the Lord of Carter Province, and he was pleased that the estate stood in the wilderness. because it was better to study there than one could imagine. No one would go to such a remote place. Turning around, he decided to ask the girl who was with him what she thought. However, there was no one there. In panic, he realized that he had forgotten her. But then he cheerfully decided that he was fine. But above his head, a monster appeared and shouted that this was very bad. It was Rory. He was outraged that he left her and didn't even notice she disappeared. He asked in surprise who she was and added that he wouldn't believe it until he saw her in human form. She was outraged because he left her. She had to fly here in her true form. Rory shouted that he had abandoned such an important assistant. He replied that he had not seen her in such a form for a long time. She looked at him angrily and said she would never forgive him for what happened today, and that she would destroy him. The atmosphere became tense, and the boy threateningly asked again who she was going to fight. She was frightened by his threatening look and said she would think about her behavior. He told her she catches on quickly, and she called him names in response and added that she was scared. At that moment, Lista appeared behind the girl and said it was simply a miracle. One glance was enough to calm the dragon, and the hero, puzzled, asked who she was. She smiled, introduced herself to him, and thanked him for the rescue. Their settlement was attacked by a volcanic turtle, but he appeared and saved them. Noah was shocked by her appearance. She threw herself into his arms and thanked him again for saving the peasants, calling him the new hero who tamed the dragon. Noah thought that she smelled nice and asked her why she considered him the new local hero. Rory said that they discussed it during the flight. Also, the village belongs to Carter Province. She added that he was a good guy because he showed his abilities on the first day, and the main character panicked at these words because he did not want that. He realized that his perfect plan had failed. Lista asked him what had happened. Rory replied that it was some kind of seizure. The boy asked her in panic what she had done, because everything had been going very well until then. But now she had brought this girl here, and it was no longer a secret that he was a genius. She became human again and said that she thought she had already said that people had long known he was gifted. He asked her again. She added that he, without even noticing it himself, had already done many deeds that showed this to others. For example, when a whole pack of monsters attacked the capital. He replied that he destroyed them only because they disturbed his sleep, but recalled that he used concealment magic then. Rory said that probably he hadn't woken up properly. Because of this, the magic didn't work. And all the knights saw how he dealt with those monsters. It shocked them. This is just one of many pranks. Although the king and his foolish brother never understood this, and the main character doubted whether he himself was as foolish as they were. Lista said with admiration that such a wonderful person had appeared in Carter Province and, taking his hand, sincerely greeted the new hero. Her eyes shone with admiration. The boy tried to say that he couldn't do anything well, but she continued that this was simply incredible modesty for such a wonderful person. But this was exactly what she expected from him. Rory replied with a smirk that his carefree life plan was ruined. After that, his loud scream was clearly heard, in which he said that he didn't understand how everything could have come to this. Later he thought with disappointment about how everything had come to this. Nearby, a girl in cat form was calmly stretching. He needed to pretend to be useless so that he would be expelled from the castle and sent to the border territory in exile. Meanwhile, Lista decided to become a maid and said that she had finished cleaning. He thanked her, although he hadn't asked for it, and was able to show his skills to the first local person he met. He began to ask her what she was doing here. The children needed to return to her village. She replied that from now on she would serve the master, repaying him for the saved life, so he could order her anything. There are some things she wouldn't do until there was a relationship between them. He agreed and added that, honestly, she even scared him. And probably she herself used to think so before, but she didn't need to try so hard. She thought that this meant that as the ruler of this land he would make everyone happy. So there was no need to work so hard, and the boy was stunned and did not understand how she could take it that way. Rory said that only one person knew about his powers. The local lord was demanding. He thought that only she knew about them. No matter how much she told him about them, no one would believe her. In your estate, servants of the previous lord still remain. At first, it is worth showing them your insignificance. At that moment, there was a knock on the door and he allowed entry. The senior butler of the Carter estate, Sebastian, entered the room, bowed, and greeted the new master. The main character understood that he was responsible for the servants, arrived just in time, and calling him Grandpa, asked if he had any questions. The man replied that the rumors were true, and he was indeed rude. And Noah, surprised that he immediately started being rude, decided to act the same way and said that he did not respect others. But the man raised his head and told the gentleman that rumors had already reached them about him as an incompetent prince and a mistake of the royal family. In his soul, the boy was glad that they thought of him that way. He realized that they simply hated him, and that his savior had finally appeared so he could look incompetent in the eyes of others. But List decided to intervene in the conversation. She said that Mr. Noah is a wonderful person. He saved her and the village from the volcanic turtle. The boy silently asked her to be quiet. He replied that no one would believe he could defeat his volcanic turtle, because as the ruler of these lands, he was incapable of anything. This was exactly what the main hero expected from him. He loudly added that the only master he would accept was the former Lord Minota Carter. Noah noted that this sounded very irresponsible. Lista asked if it was normal to keep such a person under control, and he replied that everything was fine, and if she didn't like something, she could return to the village. He added that it was quite clear that they did not like him. Firstly, they could not entrust such a large territory to someone like him. Sebastian agreed with him. Noah thought that the butler wanted to drive him out of the territory and was just looking for an excuse to show that he was good for nothing. He threw himself into the man's arms with tears in his eyes and thanked him for everything, which shocked the man. The main character said that he would learn to manage for the sake of the lands, and did not care how many times he would be beaten. For this butler, he would give everything, and thanks to him could show all the other workers his complete uselessness. All for the sake of a good reputation. Sebastian thought that he had accepted him despite such disrespect, and recognized him as his trusted one. But he did not understand what it meant, or whether that man was one of the royal judges. But he still considered himself just a useless prince, said it proudly so there would be no misunderstandings, and had no reason to communicate with anyone except him. After that, he left, and the main character was satisfied with the end of the conversation. Rory called it exhaustive and said it without reason. At night, people gathered in a cave and talked about the new lord of the land. They discussed his mind and said that the previous lord was the same. It seemed anyone was driven to the province. A man in a dark cloak with large wings on his back said that they would continue. Nothing would stop their plans. Everyone agreed with him. He smiled and suggested thanking the prince. He rejoiced and decided that the human world would become completely theirs. Perhaps a crisis was approaching for the irresponsible prince. Later, the manor servants gathered in the hall, and on the second floor before them stood the butler, who announced that he would introduce them to the master, Mr. Noah Carter, the new owner of these lands. The main character appeared before them, sitting on the throne with a crown on his head and dressed only in a cloak. Lista was waving a fan in front of him, and the cat was sitting on her lap. He added that he hopes for fruitful joint work, asked List to step away from him, because he himself was surprised what kind of performance this was, and said that everything was as it should be. It did not look ridiculous. The attendees were stunned and could not understand what was happening, because it turned out that the worthless prince was not just a rumor. They tried to guess what would happen next from his greeting. The butler was irritated by his behavior. He looked at them and felt that they did not accept him. The butler shouted for him to dress immediately. He was glad that the butler was sincere with him, because thanks to him this would spread everywhere, and Liz wondered what he would do next. He replied that he wanted to look even more foolish, but this time in clothes. Then he waved his cloak and ordered everyone to listen to him. He announced that from today the staff would be changed. The maids were shocked and asked if they would really be fired, and the butler panicked and asked what his plans were. The main character did not understand what they were talking about, because firing such talented employees was absolutely irresponsible. Rory asked him if he was planning something stupid again and how in that case he would determine who was talented and who was not, and he, pointing with his finger, replied that he would simply point to those in the front row. Then he pointed one by one at 3 employees and said that they were fired. Because of this, the staff panicked. Sebastian asked him to stop fooling around because they were the most talented and had worked here the longest. Noah replied ironically that, sorry, his soul forced him to do everything his own way. He considered himself very good. He was just firing people without reason, like the most irresponsible person in the world. People began to grumble that it could not be so. The people he pointed at instantly turned into demons and began to ask him how he could know who they really were, and the butler panicked seeing this. He asked in surprise how they dared to pose as workers. Noah froze at that moment, and one of the demons inquired how he exposed them. The man replied that it was enough to notice even a drop of their magic to recognize a demon. The demon was stunned because he felt her at a glance. Noah irritably asked if it was bad that the servants were demons. The butler did not understand what he was saying, and the demon replied that they were enemies of humanity. Every child knew that. The demon's face filled with anger. The main character asked Rory embarrassedly. She replied that it was true and that now everything was different from his previous life. He was surprised why he did not know about it. She explained that he missed all the lessons in the castle. He grabbed his head and said that he had only fired workers with the highest magical potential, and it turned out that this caused problems. Rory asked if he was okay because it meant nothing, but Lista, with eyes shining with admiration, said that he was also a lord who could recognize demons at first sight. She was inspired because that was exactly what she expected from him. Meanwhile, the demon got angry because the plan to destroy humanity was so foolishly ruined because of him. Releasing his power, he shouted that it was impossible. His body began to change, horns grew, and his ears became sharper. He decided to destroy each of them and ordered the others to start fighting immediately. But Noah was nearby, grabbed his hand, and said that it was his mistake, that he should not have been so angry, and he took back his words about firing. This stunned the demon because he did not understand how he got there so quickly, and even more it struck him that his hand became very heavy and did not obey at all. Through the demon's eyes he looked very scary. His eyes were burning, and it seemed to him that the boy spoke in a sinister voice, offering to live in peace from now on. Frightened, he decided to hide quickly, so he broke through the wall and went outside. The main character with tears did not understand why he was running away, and Rory said that he was scared, and that is why they did not notice it. Noah noticed that the present employees were whispering about how he found demons and almost tore them to pieces. The boy thought it was simply impossible, but the girls were already looking at him with admiration, and Lista expected exactly that from him. Then they lifted him up in their arms and said they would serve him faithfully, and Carter's lands would prosper in his hands. When they threw him, Noah sighed in disappointment. Rory greeted him on having even more supporters, but he shouted at her to stop, while the butler stood aside. Sebastian knelt and said that their old workers turned out to be demons, and even the former master did not recognize them as spies from the demon world. The main character tried to stop him, but the man did not stop, so that he did not even think that they had already finished with him. The boy rushed into his arms, begged him to continue because he adored him. The man angrily asked him not to come closer. Rory sat aside, sighed, and said that a difficult path lay ahead. The main character sat in a chair and read manga. He asked Lista about the barrier over the village. At that time, she was standing in front of him with a large backpack. The girl said that about an hour ago she went to the village for things, and it seems the destruction of the barrier worries them a lot. After looking through her things, he realized that she would really move in with them forever. Rory noticed that she did not ask for their opinion. Noah said he did not know about the barrier over the village. Out of breath, Sebastian ran up to them and said that, as expected from an incompetent prince, it was bold to think he knew anything about the lands he received. The boy approached again and hugged him, thanking him for coming to remind him of his worthlessness. And the man, trying to push him away, did not understand why he was so kind to him. And Rory tried to understand what was wrong with these people. Dvoretsky said that these lands lie on the edge of a dangerous forest, the Abyss Forest. The barrier around the village allowed the inhabitants to live in peace. He showed everything on the map, and Noah did not understand why anyone would live in such a dangerous place. Lista said that while they lived under the protection of the ancient hero's barrier, everything was fine, but it suddenly began to collapse. Sebastian added that, unfortunately, if this continues, the village will disappear, and Noah laughed at the ancient hero. He said that no matter how strong the barrier was, if magic did not support it, it would eventually collapse because over time it simply ages, and those present listened to his words with admiration. Lista enthusiastically said that this was exactly what she expected from him. He understood so quickly what had happened to the ancient hero's barrier. Even the court magicians could not figure it out. Noah and Rory looked at each other in surprise. Rory smiled, as if to say, "It happened again." He tried to prove that magic was simple, but she said that he should just accept that this future is a natural continuation of his past, and he was categorically against it. Meanwhile, the barrier of the ancient hero still stood in the village, and the locals gathered, asking if this man was the new master. He said that he was glad to see them, that he was prince of the kingdom Noah Carter, and asked about the barrier. They replied that there had been cracks in it before. Due to the attack of the volcanic turtle, part of the barrier was destroyed, and the inhabitants could only watch, as they always relied on it to survive. The hero struck his chest and confidently asked them to trust him, swearing by his blood that he would restore the barrier. Those present were inspired by his words. Rory was surprised by his thoughts, because if he wanted to be considered a failure, he should not have taken on such a responsibility as repairing the barrier, but he said that everything was planned and spoke so confidently that he could easily fail. If he did not meet their expectations, he would immediately fall in their eyes. So she asked how he intended to do it. He asked her to watch carefully, stood under the circle, and exhaled. Strong energy swirled around him. The air lifted his clothes. He said that he only needed to add a little to his powers. His energy was directed into the magic circle, and Rory was surprised that it was the power of just one drop. The main character reached out his hand to the barrier. He decided that if they worried about him so much, he would just get rid of him forever. His entire surface was covered with huge cracks. People were horrified that he had broken. That man said he could fix it. People were horrified at the thought of what they would do without the barrier. Some had lived there for generations. The question remained whether he was really a problematic prince. He decided to show his complete incompetence. He understands that this is bad and will later establish a new one. Lista asked everyone to wait because it was just a misunderstanding. She seriously said that he did it on purpose. The faces of those present twisted in surprise, and they asked her again. She added that he had previously said not to rely on the barrier of old heroes. The main hero tried to stop her, but she continued that he is now here and from now on will hold back the monsters. The peasants and Noah were shocked. He tried to deny it, but the people did not listen. So they decided that the new master would rid them of the monsters and would not destroy the barrier without reason. So they considered him a very good master. They gathered around him and began to praise him, but the main character retreated in horror, not understanding what was wrong with this village. Rory said that it seemed to her as if someone had just become the object of their faith. Whatever he did, everything was leading to this. He replied that it could not be such nonsense. At that moment someone shouted and the peasant pointed. In the distance, many different monsters appeared, armed in various ways. They were preparing to attack the village. The people did not understand how they had learned so quickly that the barrier had disappeared. All their attention instantly shifted to the gentleman. He wondered what would happen if everything continued like this. Rory did not understand what was happening in his head. He said it did not matter what to say to the peasants. He would rush straight at the monsters and let them defeat him. He approached them and sighed loudly. After this, his face distorted with rage, and all the monsters present were frightened and literally cried. After that, they ran away so fast that dust rose. The people nearby were surprised that he rushed at the monsters with such force that they fled in fear. This was exactly what they expected from him. The main hero literally froze in place and could not understand what was really happening. Rory calmly sighed and said she understood everything. She noticed that he applied more force than usual to break the barrier. He replied that it was only a little. She added that monsters are very sensitive to magical energy and feel its traces. For them, he is extremely dangerous due to the large amount of mana, so they fled, and the boy fell to the ground from the shock that overwhelmed him. Lista cheerfully said that frightened monsters would never return to the village. Instead of restoring the barrier, he decided to drive away all the monsters himself. The main heroine trembled from what was said, spreading her arms to the sides and standing before all the villagers, declared that this is the power of the master. While Noah tried to resist them, the people had already gathered and praised the Lord as their savior and a wonderful person. They literally prayed to him. They shouted that they would follow him to the very end and urged everyone to praise their new Lord. Rory smiled because now he had no enemies. The trembling boy covered his face with his hand. In the kingdom of Gaitan Negan, the king was again reading the news irritably. He was informed that the commander of the Titanites had resigned, and this happened only a few days after the court mage left. Knights and mages are gradually leaving the service, each saying the same thing. There is no point in serving in a palace where there is no Lord Noah. They advised returning the prince. The king threw a glass on the floor and it broke. Then he shouted as if they were saying his decision was wrong, and he began to sweat with anger. He said that the man was a complete loser, so he drove him away and was sure he was not mistaken. At that moment, a girl entered the room and called the king. He looked straight at her. Saradia von Grimm, lady from the family of the Grand Duke, arrived at the royal castle. The king of the entire country rose from the throne and looked at the girl who was walking towards him. The embarrassed monarch apologized for showing himself in such an unflattering light and asked what exactly the lady wanted, since the meeting to discuss the wedding was not supposed to take place anytime soon. The girl closed her eyes and said that this was exactly what she wanted to talk about and wanted to break off the engagement. The king stood up and asked the lady why she wanted it that way. Because this large family was one of the ducal dynasties, and the king wanted to keep them as close to the kingdom as possible. Saradia, adjusting her hair, replied that she was to be engaged to the 7th Prince Noah. The king said he had banished his son and added that if it was about her, she could marry Prince Dag. The girl smiled and modestly replied that she did not have such a desire. The king's face darkened, and the girl replied again that she had only agreed to the engagement with Prince Noah, but he was now expelled from the kingdom, so she had no reason to honor the engagement. The girl left the reception hall when suddenly a male voice called from behind, and Saradia recognized it without turning around. The girl stopped when the 6th Prince Dag stood behind her. Out of breath, the prince asked the girl to wait and, not believing in the breaking of the engagement, asked Saradia if her words were true. Saradia looked at this boy and said that her heart belonged to Noah and she did not intend to give herself to Dag. The young man was stunned, reached out his hand, did not believe what he heard, and nervously, stammering, asked her to wait and think it over once more. Dag knew that Sarah was the best choice for the ducal house of Erezes. He had never had a girlfriend, but Noah stood in his way because of this engagement, so he thought that now he could finally get married. Dag's gaze was crazy, and he tried to smile at the girl, asking her to wait with the decision while she was confused by the prince's behavior. Dag tried to touch the girl, but she struck his hand with hers, pouring out all her accumulated anger. Sarah seriously replied that she would not allow such a worthless man to touch her, and she would rather slit her throat and die than marry him. The girl turned away again and walked on, and the boy fell to his knees and watched her with his eyes. The prince grabbed his head in confusion. He did not understand why everyone around was only talking about his younger brother and what was special about Noah. The girl, without turning her head, looked at the boy and thought that since he did not understand this, he was a fool. Neither the king nor the sixth prince understood how this happened, and were upset and angry at the seventh prince, while Noah himself fled with his familiar Rory, who was in the form of a cat. The main character sat at the table in his office, bowed his head face down on the table, and did not understand why everything in this world had a hidden meaning, while the table was covered with documents. Rory, in human form, answered the boy why he should not give up and shrugged. She added that his supposedly irresponsible actions always end with him receiving the rank of first and everything else, and began listing how the boy found a spy among the estate workers and how the monsters ran away as soon as they saw him. Noah looked at his hands in horror and did not understand why this was happening. Rory replied embarrassedly that the main character is an idiot. The girl sat on the sofa and, raising a finger, replied that, first of all, it is enough just to say that the young man is uneducated. The main character replied that this option is in third place, and the girl got angry, saying she does not understand what is in this boy's head. Noah began to explain that instead of immediately saying that you can do nothing, he wants to be the one who says he can do anything and that it will be very easy, but then he will ruin everything because it will look even worse. While the boy was looking out the window, the girl replied that in this he behaved a little differently, and noticed how a leaf began to fall, holding her breath. Rory picked up the piece of paper from the floor and asked what it was. Without turning around, the main character replied that Sebastian sent some nonsense, and the girl looked at the notes and said that it was a quote from the village reconstruction project in Grind. Rory said that they want to restore everything the monsters destroyed after the barrier fell, but we do not have enough strength to cope, and it is unknown if it will be enough if that boy uses restoration magic. The boy, frightened and smiling, replied that they are crazy because if he restores everything, the load will increase several times. Rory noted that the boy is lazy as always. Noah replied that you will not find anyone who does not like the absence of work. The main character approached the girl, replied, took the document, said he could use it, and smiled. The boy waved his hand to the girl, said he needed to go out, and the girl asked in surprise if he was going to take on this request. The young man turned to her and replied that it was a secret for now. The girls faced a grim end, and she had a bad feeling. The carriage moved forward, and the main characters sat inside it. Rory said that the city exhibition lacked workers, and that hiring employees from a private guild would solve this problem. Noi read Japanese comics and said she was right. The girl added that there was not so much money on Carter's lands, and the boy agreed with her again. The familiar inquired whether it was possible to gather people without magic or money, and whether the boy intended to use restorative magic or return to the capital to ask for help. The main character replied that if he hired someone from the capital, it would only raise his reputation. The girl asked me what he was going to do then. The boy, thinking, answered that he was thinking about it. In the forest around the strip, armed bandits gathered and surrounded the heroes. Rory noticed that the cart stopped and asked about it. I think that scared the horse. The girl told the main character that she would go to see what was happening outside. As soon as Rory got out of the cart, the man pressed a knife to her throat and ordered her not to move. The men tied up the heroes because they thought they were real bandits. The main characters were silent while the men said they were well dressed, and it seemed to them that today they could get some money. Rory looked at the boy and asked what they should do, to which she replied that these men quickly fall under the influence of his familiar, and everything turned out to be simpler than he thought. The girl did not believe what was happening and asked the boy what exactly he had planned. The main hero replied that he was going to take them with him so they could do all the work for them in the most terrible possible way. The girl smiled and blushed, and when the robbers heard this, they were outraged by the boy's proposal. One of the bandits addressed his leader, to which he sharply replied and asked what he wanted. The man replied that the girl was very beautiful and looked at Rory with cat ears. The thief agreed with his comrade and began to scold the main hero. I think he bought this cute girl for an unheard of amount of money and was embarrassed in front of his comrades. Rory also blushed and was outraged while the boy looked at her and laughed. The bandit leader pointed at the heroes and ordered them to take all valuables along with the girl, to which they agreed and moved forward. Rory was confused. The gang leader lifted the girl into his arms while she was surprised. Rory was embarrassed and whispered to the main hero what to do because if he did nothing, she would take her true form and kill everyone. The bandit leader ordered the girl to sit quietly because they would leave her alive, to which she was outraged again. The main hero untied his hands, folded his fingers to snap, and responded with a snap on the forehead. The finger strike was so strong that it threw the bandit leader and the girl into the air, shocking his accomplices. Other bandits called their leader when he was falling from the sky. While everyone was distracted by the fall of their leader, Noah grabbed Rory. The main hero did not show his face, said that they were idiots, and asked what they were going to do with Rory after they took her away. The girl blushed again and called the main hero, but the guy interrupted her and called her a bandit fool. The protagonist was outraged and thought that they were going to drag his Rory away for their disgusting plans, like in the comics he had read. The girl was outraged and asked why there were always idiots around her. Noah let the girl down to the ground and scratched the back of his head, saying that the show was over, while the bandits were already preparing to attack him. The main hero smiled and said that if they did not want to die, he could only advise them to behave quietly. Rory added that this is usually what bandits say. But his words did not stop the bandits. They attacked, and replied that after this, they would never retreat. The main hero rushed at them with a rope and hit certain parts of their bodies. Advancing forward, the guy tied them up while they did not even understand what was happening and were surprised. The bandits asked in surprise who exactly was standing before them, and the main hero simply turned around, looked at them, and smiled. Turning towards the estate, Sebastian asked confusedly what it was. In front of the man on the grass sat 6 tied-up men. Noah smiled and replied that Sebastian needed workers to rebuild the village, and his wonderful master had brought them. Raising a finger, the main character said he would do everything, and even completely free of charge. Looking at the bandits and the robbers were bewildered. Noah grabbed the gang leader by the shoulder and told Sebastian that he had entrusted these people with the construction of the village, which greatly surprised the bandit. Sebastian was outraged and embarrassed, as was Lista, who stood next to the man. Sebastian said indignantly that it was unthinkable to hire such uncontrollable people and trust them with the restoration of the village, because it was unknown how they would behave, and the main character addressed the man. Noah asked if the man wanted to give up the workers he had personally selected, because he thought they could handle everything, which surprised the bandits. Sebastian fell silent, and Lista turned to her master with a smile and was delighted. The young man believed that these guys would help lower his reputation, and he would breathe a sigh of relief from the accumulated tension. Suddenly, the main character noticed that the bandits began to cry and turn back to them. The bandits wiped tears of joy and wet noses and believed that before them was a very wonderful person. Noah did not understand this gesture and forced himself to smile. The leader of the bandits joyfully said that it was very generous to give such people a chance, and called the main character a master. The boy looked at the bandit in surprise, and they, placing their hands on their chests, replied that they became bandits not by their own will, but because they lost their jobs and families and were driven away everywhere, so they had no money even for food. The bandit thanked his master and said that the head of the private company, Panther, had satisfied their request. Noah responded with a shout. Rory said that these guys were influential people in the city, and Sebastian added that if you think about it, everything is going well. Sebastian loudly began to tell that he had heard about how, because of a corrupt duke, highly qualified employees of a private guild were arrested, and suggested that Mr. Noah might have known them in advance, to which the young man refused. The leader of Panther happily told the guys to put down their knives and start picking up nails, because this was their first proper job. The men raised their hands up with joyful shouts, while Noah and Rory looked at the guys embarrassed and worried. The main character turned away and grabbed his face, realizing that his plan had failed, while the girl looked at the young man with incomprehension. Sebastian noticed that Noah was able to simultaneously deal with the bandits and find workers. Suddenly the Duke came to his senses and replied that there were many other problems in those mountains, and the main character definitely would not be able to deal with them so easily. Suddenly the gates opened, and a horse with a cart entered the yard. Stripes together with uninvited guests are heading to the heroes. Noah together with Rory was very surprised and did not understand what was happening. Suddenly a female voice sounded from the stopped carriage, apologizing for the unexpected visit. The girls stepped out of the ribbon, replied that they came to help the main hero, and went forward. The young man did not understand why and asked where they were from. Saralea, together with Theta and Reza, appeared before the main hero, and one of the girls, turning to Noah, replied that they had not seen each other for a long time. The main hero did not understand and suggested asking the girls where they were from. The man was puzzled until Lista asked the gentleman who all these people were. The main hero replied that they were acquaintances from the royal court. Commander of the Royal Knight Squad Theta replied that it was a great honor for her to meet Lord Noah again, and added that she had heard how he helped the locals who suffered from monsters and became the true master of his lands, which made her eyes shine. The girl happily added that she really liked the spirit of the main hero and dedicated her power to him. Noah did not understand and asked how the conversation came to this topic. Instructor of the court mages department. Reza told her partner that they had not seen each other for a long time, and, adjusting the bandage on her right eye, added that the Lady of Shadows serves him. Noah turned back to lift her in the corridor and asked what she was doing in such a remote place, because she did not like life in nature. Reza replied that since her partner was here, she too suddenly felt embarrassed about what she said. The girl rephrased that the god in the shadow brought her here to serve her destined one, and the main character agreed confusedly, while Rory responded that the knight with muscles instead of brains and the witch obsessed with him are causing him more and more problems. Saradia began to say that she met girls on the way here and decided that such strong people could be very useful, so she took them with her. The girl joyfully greeted the boy again. It is said that they had not seen each other for a long time. The main character began to stutter and agreed with Sarah, believing that she was to blame for the appearance of new guests. The girl recalled how she was called an acquaintance and added that it was because they did not have time to marry and dedicate their lives to each other. Lista was very surprised by such a statement. Sebastian was surprised and thoughtful, and Noah just grabbed his head in confusion. Sebastian reminded that the woman on the right is the heiress of one of the most influential ducal families, the most powerful and famous knight of the city, and the mentor of court magicians in the land of Carter. Lista happily said that, as befits Lord Noah, he managed to attract such influential people to his side. The main character asked with an embarrassed smile why this was happening, and Rory replied that she is beginning to think that the phrase, "Sir Noah is the best," is starting to take root among people. Noah told the boys to go home because this is not a place for the Duke's daughter or other famous people. Rory noticed that this was said by the Prince of the Kingdom. Theta replied that that was exactly why they could not leave, because they wanted to be useful to Noah. Reza laughed and said that as long as Noah was their idol, they would stand by his side. Sarah said that she, the Night Lady and Sorceress, agreed with this, so we united to help the main character. Rory responded that here was another person with exaggerated charisma, and asked what Noah would do, and the man realized he had no choice and began to speak. Noah joyfully replied that it was time for a duel, and Rory could not understand what that guy was thinking. The familiar asked what this was for, and the guy answered that it did not matter what exactly happened, these guys would still stay here. The protagonist happily said that because of this they had to change the plan. The young man thought about how to show that he was actually talentless. Rory shockingly replied that this guy had learned nothing in life. Noah replied that if he lost the duel, people would quickly lose interest, and the local requests would immediately become useless, because they would see the boy's talented opponents, not him himself. Rory understood his plan. The girl inquired whether they could at least hurt him physically or psychologically, and the main hero snorted and replied that it would be quite difficult for them, so he decided to set some rules. After 2 hours, people gathered in the city and began talking about the gentleman who was to compete with the court mage and commander of the Royal Knights, and someone noted that 2 against 1 seemed unfair. Noah noticed that the locals gathered quite quickly and sarcastically remarked that they had nothing to do, and Sarah said that she would be the judge, because for her, Sir Ivan Grem, it was an honor to hold this role. The girl said that the rules are simple, and the participant will have to hunt monsters in an unknown forest, and after time passes, he must return with the prey. The winner will be the one who defeats the strongest monster. If the participant returns with nothing, he will be disqualified. The girls began preparing for the hunt. The boy scratched the back of his head indifferently, and Rory sat on his shoulder like a cat. The duel began, and the girls, along with the main character, went into the forest. The boy asked his familiar why she was in the form of a cat again, and Rory replied that there were too many people and it annoyed her. Suddenly the girl grabbed the microphone and was about to speak. Lista introduced herself as the commentator, and added that she would voice everything the people would see. The girl sat on the top of the tower to observe, and the boy sarcastically asked what she was doing there. Lista heard a loud noise in the forest and saw a beam of light. She began to say that it was breaking through in front of them, but her phrase was interrupted by the light. The girl added that Knight Commander Titta was walking ahead. Theta said that as a knightess she had no idea why the prince started the duel, but she decided to fight with all her might and rushed forward at the monster in the form of a huge serpent. With a sharp movement of the sword, the girl was able to cut down the monster without looking back. Lista began to say how incredibly she managed to cut the monster in half with a single blow. Reza noted that I expected this from someone who put strength first, but the only one who truly had the dignity to address the prince was her. The girl Poppy stood opposite the very same monster. Reza ordered everyone to look at the dark power of the witch and began to cast a spell with his staff. The girl uttered the spell Maximum Power Star Strike and the serpent exploded. After a small explosion, a huge explosion occurred with a loud sound. People were very surprised by such power, and Lista said they set up a barrier to protect everyone from the blow, as befits Lady Reza. Noah moved away from everyone, saw the explosion and said it turned out well. They are holding up well, so it's time for him to start. They listened to notice the movement of the main character, and responded that Mr. Noah finally set off on his journey. The girl began to say that she saw a moving figure and asked to pay attention, because their handsome man, the master, was standing there. Noah was embarrassed by this statement and asked who allowed Lista to take the commentator's place. The main character understood and said that he could do nothing when so much attention was directed at him. A young man jumped into the abyss and said that we should try to go here. Lifa lost her master, started saying that he disappeared, and called Prince Noah. The young man was glad that he finally managed to get away from the commentator. Rory asked what exactly the hero had to do to show his weakness, but Noah reminded him of the conditions of victory and said it was very simple. The boy replied that they would deal with small things and take the ball like in Pokemon, and added that a small slime would come out because that's what he calls it. Rory, excited, replied that she hoped to find them because they should be somewhere here, near the foot of the mountain. The boy replied that the ordinary ones can be found anywhere. The main hero looked down and noticed something. They say that when you remember the sun, a ray appears here. On the grass lay a slimy mass, and the boy said that here it is. They found it. The main hero picked up the slime and replied that it was so fragile, asked to look at it while it squeaked. Rory said in surprise that this slime was strange because it was golden and shiny. Noah did not understand her and replied that when he was a swordsman, slimes could have completely different colors, and the familiar was shocked by this. Rory asked what that boy would do next because it looked like he was going to fight him. The main hero replied that he had already defeated him, and the slime went to the sky, which surprised the girl. The boy explained that this was the magic of instant death and asked why fight if you can do everything at once and without unnecessary harm. Rory repeated the hero's phrase about the magic of instant death and horror, and asked if this was the same ancient shadow magic. The cat girl replied that in this world no one knows how to use such spells, and the boy said that it used to be mandatory to learn them. Rory covered her left eye and sighed, replied that that boy found a monster, but it is unknown what he will do next. The main hero replied that he thinks Teddy and Reese do not have time for him now, and there is no one here unless his announcement was heard, so he can sleep and ask to be woken up later. The young man lay down on his cloak, and the boy was usually surprised by his calmness. Rory shuddered and thoughtfully said that napping in an unfamiliar forest that smelled a mile away was very strange and just like him. After a few hours, the main hero returned to the people. Lista noticed her master. The inhabitants also noticed the return of their lord and called the lord. Lista began to cry and said that she was very worried about her lord, and the young man tried to calm her and apologized, saying that it was his fault. The main character replied that he had completely lost track of time while hunting. Rory lay on the boy's shoulder and thought that he would now ask him which monster he had defeated, and he would answer that it was slime. Noah apologized for the delay and asked if the girls had already returned. The girls stood with a pile of monsters behind them, while Theta agreed with the boy and said that they had returned a few minutes ago. Tata replied that she had killed 15 ancient dragons. Reza said that she had 5 ancient dragons and accidentally burned 2 or 4 of them. Rory noticed that they were lagging behind the people and were breaking dragons like nuts because those dragons were different, sulfur monosulfide ones, and so she did not know what level of hunters these girls were. Sarah approached the main character with a smile and said that now it was his turn to show the pig the monster he had defeated. The boy closed his eyes, put his hand into the inner edge of the platform, and told Sarah that the monster he had defeated was slime. The boy showed a small, dead golden slime. Everyone began to crowd around the little monster and look at it. People did not stop looking at the spreading slime and asked if it was slime. Noah was happy inside and thought that everything was fine because he was the only one who returned with one small slime, and now he was undoubtedly a fearsome lord. People began to say that the gentleman defeated only one slime. They were surprised by the slime's shine because a lot of time had passed, and it was still sparkling. Suddenly Sarah came to her senses and asked to wait. They say it was the very same one. The girl added that according to rumors the insatiable king lives in an unknown forest, and right in front of them was exactly this slime king. The peasants undoubtedly retreated, and the girl believed that this was the very same legendary monster. Theta and Reza began to say that, in short, this wonder monster, though small, cost more than 5 ancient dragons, and they dragged the king of gluttony. Sarah hugged the main character and declared Prince Noah the winner on behalf of her family, and the boy himself was shocked. The main character, almost in tears, did not understand why everything always turned out that way. Leaf with burning eyes addressed the Lady Knight, and the Lady Sorceress said that they were so strong but could not easily win because it was obvious that the master was the only one worthy to rule these lands. People raise their hands with joy and say what their lord expects from them. Rory said that the ending was quite obvious, and the boy, trembling with embarrassment, replied that he did it again. It was an ordinary day at the Carter estate. The Duke was walking around the estate, and Lista was washing the windows. Theta and Reza, together with the guards, practiced with the ball and engaged in witchcraft. Sarah sat and smiled, reading a book. The main hero was sleeping at the workplace, sitting at the desk. Rory, in the form of a cat, slept next to the main character. Opening one eye, noticed that there was a lot of bustle around Noah, and, falling asleep, began to remember how she first met him. The archive is a place hidden in another dimension, where all the information of the world from the very foundations is stored, and only sages blessed by the goddesses can enter. But even they cannot stay there for long. The place was guarded by Rory the White Dragon, and as far as she remembered, it was filled with strangers. But one day, when the White Dragon was sleeping, a portal appeared. A little boy entered this world through the portal. The boy was surprised when he entered the library, wondered if the books would get wet in the open air, and suddenly noticed someone's presence. Behind the boy appeared a huge white dragon named Rory. The boy was Noah, about 6 years old, and he said that the dragon was very cute. Rory was surprised that a child was in the archives. The dragon in all his might stood before the boy and asked him to introduce himself. Noah looked at the dragon, and Rory wondered who this child was, although he looked like a sage and seemed to be blessed by the goddess. He did not actually appear so she decided that he was an uninvited guest. The dragon's mood changed, and she replied that she must destroy the intruder, because this is the task of the demonic guardians of the Forbidden Archives. Rory opened her mouth to use magic. Taking off, the dragon blasted flames directly at the man who wanted to kill. Fire magic overturned nature and tossed books into the air. The dragon descended to the earth again, believing that she was a demon named Rory, one of the 7 created by the goddess, and her ability was instant regeneration through rapid cell growth, allowing the body to remain whole and unharmed. Noah was not frightened. He just grimaced when dust got into his mouth. This place greatly surprised the dragon. It seemed she did not understand that her magic left no trace on him and that this boy endured her strike without a single scratch. The boy crouched to the ground as the dragon began to take off. Noah looked at the dead flower and healed it again. It seemed to me that this was very strange magic, resembling at the same time the power of destruction and the power of meeting. He raised his finger up. Having managed to repeat the dragon's magic, the boy asked if he was doing everything correctly. Rory was surprised, and the man said that if you think about it, it even looks boring. He angrily asked who that man was. The main character replied that when you ask a person their name, you should introduce yourself first, as his grandmother told him. The dragon, puzzled, began to ask if he was afraid of her. Noah replied that he had just managed to reproduce her magic, so he didn't see what he had to fear. Rory understood because it seemed true, but she was still a dragoness. Rory began to recall that before she became the keeper of the archives, she lived like a goddess, and people feared her. People then revered her and were wary of her. Therefore, seeing such a man was the first time for her. The dragoness replied that her name was Rory, and that she was a demon guarding this place, and the boy replied that his name was Noah, and that he was the 7th prince. Rory asked how he ended up there, to which he replied that it happened quite by accident. Noah said that when he leaned over the castle, he saw a rift in the dimensions, decided to investigate it, and thus ended up here. Rory was very surprised and asked how he got into this rift. The dragon realized that since the boy passed through a spatial rift, he was probably from another world and could die there. Suddenly the boy gasped. Noah, glancing at the shelves, noticed that there were many rare books here. The main character took one of the books. Rory shouted at the boy not to touch the books with his dirty little hands, and called him a little idiot. The dragon knew that the meaning of her existence was in security technologies, and as the guardian of this place, she could not allow that man to touch them. Rory flew up in front of that boy and was about to destroy him with a magical attack. The main character immediately dodged the attack. Noah began jumping on the bookshelves and the dragon stopped. The main character noticed how a barrier began to appear. Noah asked her to be careful because she could damage her favorite books. Rory said that her magic protects the books, and instead of worrying about them, he should think about himself. The main character smiled and replied yes, implying that they were safe. The young man replied that this meant it was possible to try something while inside the dragon's magic. Noah tore the ball in which he was. Rory was very surprised by what that boy could do. The main hero began to throw fireballs. While the dragon dodged, the fireballs hit the bookshelves. The barrier imposed on the dragon began to crack, and Rory noticed it. The boy remarked that it was not so easy to touch the books. The main hero spread his arms and replied that it was time to finish this before the dragon attacked from behind. Suddenly, a huge circle with pentagrams appeared in front of Rory's face. Rory was surprised, and that boy just smiled forgivingly. The main hero replied that he didn't care what kind of book demon she was, because he just asked her not to interfere with his peaceful life. Noah placed a triple seal on the dragon. Suddenly, Rory, in the form of a girl with cat ears, fell from the sky into the archive. Rory did not understand what it was and asked the boy. The girl called him a fool and asked what he was wearing and why she was in such a small body. The main character replied that he had sealed all her power, pointing to the cover of a Japanese comic with a girl who was a copy of Rory. The girl replied that for such a child it was simply impossible to go and seal the powers of a high-ranking demon, and that he was by no means someone capable of that. The main character replied that he had already told her his name. The young man smiled and replied that he was the 7th Prince of Noah. Noah returned to the archives through a portal and casually called Rory. The girl angrily replied that he had come again, said that strangers were not allowed here, and sat on top of the wardrobe. The hero smiled and said that if he had ever been somewhere, he could easily return there by teleportation magic, and the girl noted that such magic was high level, but the boy did not believe her. The boy sat next to the girl and read a Japanese comic, saying that it was amazing and that the manga was very interesting. The girl noticed that it was true, and that there were books in the archives from completely different realities. Rory was worried that he would read forbidden books, but he came to read manga and relax, and added that the boy had taste. The boy closed the manga and turned back to the girl. The main character smiled and asked if the girl could advise him on how to earn respect. Rory was delighted and took 2 books. They say they are very good. A little later, the girl brought a few more books and said that all of them were wonderful. The main character was happy and asked if he could take them with him. Without waiting for an answer, the boy opened a portal to his world and said goodbye to the girl. Rory was a little upset but said goodbye to the boy. But the girl was very glad that he would come here again. For her, such a casual conversation was unlike the previous one. Rory returned to the boy who was accused of ruining her entire book and pointed to the cover covered with greasy stains. The girl was furious and looked at the boy who was eating while holding red books. They say you shouldn't eat with books in your hands. Noah apologized and explained that he had made a mess and didn't notice. When he cleaned up with magic, he said everything was like new now. Noah cried. They say this book was very touching. Rory sat next to him and looked at him with interest. The girl looked at the cover, said she liked it too, and recommended a new book by the same author, and the main character noted that Rory has excellent taste. After some time, the main characters began to argue and insult each other over different tastes. Noah replied that this book by this author is better, pointing to the comic. Rory replied that he is completely crazy and has terrible taste. The boy asked what she was talking about, showed 3 books and said that these are his 3 favorite mangas. The girl agreed that it made sense, but the boy asked to show her his favorite mangas. Rory gladly showed her 3 mangas, and that boy realized that he was a loser. The main character wilted said that he lost, and the girl proudly struck a victorious pose and exhaled. Rory replied that the books she chose are the best. The boy was ready to argue with her and said that his books are no worse. The boy closed the book and replied that it was already late and he had to go home. Roll got upset and looked at the boy. He noticed it. And you asked what happened. The girl was upset and asked the boy to stay a little longer. The young man replied that even if she asked, he still could not stay, because his older sister Mizan would start counting the minutes. The girl understood him. The main character returned to the girl. Noah asked if she wanted to leave here. The boy extended his hand to the girl and with a smile suggested going together. Roll looked at him sadly and replied that it was impossible because she was the guardian of this place. The protagonist said that there were no spells holding her here. No one could get here except him, and he could use magic as an alarm signal. The young man noted that there was no point in protecting the archive alone. Rory hesitated, thinking about the world outside the archives. The girl was afraid of the outside world because before becoming a guardian, she lived in it and was a being that people revered. Rory remembered how that respect quickly turned into general hostility, and she became an enemy to everyone. She tried to run away, but she was still scared of how quickly people could start to hate. So Rory became the guardian of the archives because there was nothing left to fear, and there she found peace. The girl thought she would never leave this place again because if she stayed, people would no longer push her away. While Rory was lost in thought, the boy interrupted her and asked again. The girl opened her mouth and tried to say something but couldn't and got angry. Rowley shouted and ordered him to be quiet, telling himself not to pretend to be a stranger because he was only a human. Noah looked at her, and she said that she was a demon, the strongest among the goddess's creatures, and a man like him could not understand her. Rowley said that she hated him and ordered him to leave and never come back. Although the girl understood that it was a lie, she cried and blushed. The boy turned away from the girl and replied that he would do as she said. The main character entered the portal, and the girl only reached out her hand to him and gasped. Rory lowered her hand. I understand that it was a mistake, and she herself understands it perfectly. Suddenly the girl cried and could not understand why herself. After that event, no one else came to the archive, and Rory sat sadly alone by the bookshelf. Suddenly the girl heard someone's footsteps. Rory rejoiced at the noise coming from the depths of the archives and began calling Noah. The girl was glad of the noise and quickly stood up, saying that he had finally returned. Rory knew she had to apologize for what happened and was ready to leave here with him, continuing to run forward. The girl stopped by the tree and noticed a strange figure trying to call her friend. But instead of Noah, a monster ended up in the archive, not a stranger, who tried to take the forbidden books. The monster with tentacles instead of hands said that it was wonderful, and the archives with all the information of the world finally ended up in his hands. Rory was angry and confused, asking who he was and how he ended up here. The monster noticed her and realized that she was a local guardian. The monster added that she was an idiot and didn't even know that the barrier on the ground had weakened. The girl understood with surprise and remembered that Noah had sealed her powers. The monster piercingly asked if she could protect the archives in such a state. The girl did not fall for the provocation and ordered him to step away from the books because he was the son of a nobody. The monster threateningly replied that she should step back because she was a useless guardian. He lifted the girl with his tentacles, grabbed her, and immobilized her. The monster hung the girl on a tree while she struggled and asked what it was, ordering her to let go. The monster ordered her to be silent and watch quietly while he absorbed all the knowledge of the world. The girl became upset because of the hopelessness of the situation and thought that if only she had not been sealed, but quickly came to her senses. The monster took one of the mangas, and the girl ordered him not to touch that book. The monster looked at her and at the book, did not understand what it was, and realized that it was manga. The monster began to throw these books out one by one, saying that this was not hidden knowledge, and did not understand why manga ended up in a place where all the works of the world were collected, adding that only idiots read such things. The monster got angry and shouted that this was not what he was looking for. He wanted to find grimoires about expanding one's own boundaries and magic capable of conquering an entire country, not this light reading that we do not have on the shelves on Earth. The girl replied embarrassedly that this was not so, and the man asked again what she said. Rory began to cry and replied that mangas are the best for relaxing and resting together with someone. During those long days in the archives, forbidden books and grimoires did not calm her down, but mangas and novels that connected her with Noah did. The girl ordered never to speak like that about manga again, and to apologize to the authors. The monster got angry and replied that he would kill her and rush into attack. The monster laughed loudly over the girl with his tentacles and tried to strangle her. Rory was confused and remembered Noah asking him to save her. The monster only wished for her death. Suddenly, a portal appeared. Noah came out of the portal and knocked down the monster. The monster did not understand who had come to the archive, and Noah replied that it was teleportation magic. With his last breath, the monster said that he did not know about teleportation magic. Cutting off the last tentacles, the boy grabbed Rory, who was falling, caught her, and asked if she was okay. The main hero put the girl down on the ground, and she replied that he came to save her. But the boy was ready to argue that it was just a coincidence. Noah said that he just decided to take a break from reading manga, so he hadn't come to her for a while, and pointing to the book, asked her to look at what he had done. The boy replied that manga was still the best books, and the girl was touched by this. The main hero looked at her and asked what had happened. Rory, interrupting him, threw herself into his arms and called him. The girl began to explain that when he suddenly disappeared, she thought he would not return and that she would never see him again. The boy asked her not to worry and stroked her head. She began to explain that he couldn't get through because he was traveling with his family and couldn't refuse. And you asked about the girl in surprise. The young man added that he wanted to refuse and continue reading, but he was told there was no choice. And suddenly he remembered, reaching into his inner pocket. Noah offered to look and pulled a ribbon out from there. The main character tied a bow on the girl's uniform and replied that he bought it because he thought it would suit her. The girl was very happy, and the boy explained that it was a gift. The young man smiled and thanked for protecting the manga. Rory was moved again and began to cry, blushing. The girl hugged the main character again, and he did not understand what was happening. Rory decided and answered that she would go with that man into the outside world. The main character was very glad and agreed. Noah added that he would put a barrier here so that no one else could get in, and if some other worldly creature slipped in, he would feel it, so there would be no problems. The girl asked shyly if she could go with him. The main character thought for a moment and replied that the girl had recommended many good manga to him, and he had not asked anything from her in return yet. The young man replied that in exchange for her advice, he would show her many more interesting things. Rory agreed with him. They say she will definitely learn a lot from him. And they went through the portal together, so the demon guardian of the archive became the prince's assistant without any tension. Returning to the present, Noah woke up from Lista's voice, which distracted him. The girl ran up to the gentleman and shouted that a valuable vein had been found on their land, which surprised him greatly and made him choke. He was upset and asked why this was happening, since this time he hadn't even done anything. Lista explained that last time, when he threw a fireball at the volcanic turtle, it also hit the lair of the blood bears, and Noah was shocked and said it was the butterfly effect, because there was no chance of that happening. Rory woke up from the screams and realized that he was still acting like a fool, thinking that she wanted him to show her even more interesting things. The girl decides to recall the past, and tells that during their acquaintance with Noah, after dealing with the volcanic turtle with a fire salvo, they accidentally destroyed the blood bear's nest and found a valuable ore. The girl smiles and says that in the very depths, where no one would even think to descend, they found a large vein of mithril. And the main character loudly says that this time even he did nothing. The cat lying on the table asks if mithril is not rare and what if it is sold. Their territory could become very rich. And the man in shock asks if this is serious, because he heard what is happening. He suddenly turns to Sebastian and says that they need to take advantage of this because many new residents have recently appeared in the city and the supplies are quickly running out because of them. The main character asks the man in surprise why people go to such a remote place. The cat shrugs, and the man wants to say something. He says that in fact followers of Prince Noah come here from all over the world because they found out that he is here. By the way, this is Lista who calls people. Lista will do everything, even on weekends, so that everyone knows what a wonderful gentleman he is, and the main character is shocked by this. The man confidently says that in the ranking of the most desirable places to live, Carterland is now in first place, and talks about whether they have solved their main problem. The guy turns to him, but he does not stop. He loudly says that the ore was found by the townspeople, not them, so it is not their merit, and the main character is shocked and asks to confirm that everything was exactly like that. The hero suddenly hugs the man and tells Sebastian that only he understands him. The man pushes him away and says that in his place he would keep silent about the mithril vein. The cat asks why hide it. The cat says that the young girl Sarah is the daughter of the Minister of Finance. If she is involved in selling the ore, the price of the ore will soar. The main character says that this destroys his idea of himself as a fool, and the cat adds that it is good if she is already expensive. The cat says that he cannot hide this forever and wants it to be understood. The main character sighs and says that this vein here must be removed immediately. This man is the only one who supports him. He turns to Sebastian and says that he serves him. The main character orders Sebastian to call him a merchant who should not be trusted at all, and Sebastian indifferently sits aside. After a few days, a carriage arrives, stops, and the main character smiles and realizes that he considers himself here. He looks out the window and says that for some reason Carter's property attracts too much attention. Kit says it's because of him. The main character smiles and says that in the end they even found a vein of mithril here, so this merchant simply must cheat them by selling ore, and the cat laughs. If some sly merchant outsmarts him, his reputation will be ruined. He will be used and left with nothing, and people will speak of him in a bad light. The cat says that if such a brazen merchant could exist, the main character asks Sebast to call the one with the worst reputation. A bad reputation never comes from an honest approach to business. The main character smiles and says that now he will finally stand before him. He is completely confident in him. The cat awkwardly tells the boy that he hasn't even seen him. Then the door opens, Sebastian enters and tells the protagonist that he has brought the one he asked for, while Noah stands before him and listens. The man points to this woman in the hood and burqa and says that she has a very noticeable appearance, so the main character should be careful. Noah asks what he means. The merchant says he is glad to meet them and removes his hood. A goblin woman appears and says her name is Sabrina Ekaguya. All three people in the room and the cat are shocked when they find out that she is a goblin. Sebastian says he checked the reputation of many merchants in the country and this is the closest to what Mr. Noah asked me to find. The cat asks with interest why the monster works for the merchants. This is quite good. The main heroine shows a positive gesture and with a smile says that she was hired. Everyone is shocked by this news, even the traitor herself. He approaches the goblin girl, takes her hands, and asks if her name is Sabrina Ikiguila. He asks her to cooperate. He does not know why she has such a name, but it sounds like that of a villainess. The cat asks the protagonist to wait because she is a goblin. The protagonist tells her that she is a dragon and that appearance does not matter. What is more important is how incorruptible she is as a merchant. They are silent for a few minutes. Then Sabrina Ekiguya begins to cry and tremble with her hands in front of her. The heroine asks the merchant what happened, and she says that since she became like this, it is the first time she has heard such words, so she is very happy. The cat asks with interest if she became like this, and the hero, smiling, understands and says that it must be very difficult. Sabrina clenches her fist and confidently says that she will try for the sake of such a good person as Noah. The main hero hopes for her but also thinks that he will fail, and suddenly he remembers something. The main hero gives her a goblin as a sign of friendship. Sabrina accepts the gift and sincerely thanks the boy. The cat asks what he just gave her but does not object. Noah says that it is some kind of exorcism ritual. The main hero says that he does not want anything to happen while Ekiguya is here. If some traveler kills her, all his plans will be ruined. The cat snorts and thinks about the thing Noah just gave her. The cat realizes that this item looks like a shrine. The goblin happily holds a cross in her hand. After some time, the cat silently watches, and someone in shock asks what it is. The main hero, spreading his arms, asks the people what this absurdly large mountain of gold is, after which the world economy will collapse. Everyone stands before him and listens to his emotions. Sebastian says that this is the money brought by Ikiguya. The sale of the mithril vein turned out to be a great success for them. The stunned protagonist asks the man what he is talking about and asks him to take Ikiguya. The man awkwardly begins to report something. He says that Ikiguya is already here. Behind him, a young girl with a burden comes out and says that it is she. Sobran Ekiguya is actually a man, and everyone is shocked. Everyone screams in shock. The cat notes that he has changed so much. Saburin says that yes, it's true. He was a little late with the explanations. After he put on the necklace given to him by Mr. Noah, he regained the appearance he had before the curse and sincerely thanks everyone. The hero was horrified and thought that a curse had been placed on him. It was a very shameful story. Other merchants deceived and cursed him, turning him into a goblin. Because of such an appearance, no one wanted to deal with him, so he fell to the level of an ordinary money changer. However, Mr. Noah noticed this and still agreed to work with him. He is a very kind person and even removed this vile curse from him. Ikiguya says that now, looking normal, he managed to return Jin to the guild and collect his money. So from now on, he will work with the Carter estate. Sebastian asked in surprise about Jin's guild, and the protagonist asked him if he knew that it was the richest trading guild in the world, because Sebastian heard that one of its members disappeared. No one expected that Mr. Saberin would turn out to be the lost merchant and stands in amazement. The protagonist asks Sebastian in horror why he brought him, since he is his friend and this could be the mistake of the century. Sabarin says that it is impressive how miraculously Mr. Noah's big heart was able to remove the curse from Mr. Sabaran. This story should be passed down from generation to generation. Let people gather and tell it. I ask Lista what she carries. Girls who watch this report about what kindness is. Their leader is generous. This is the path from darkness to light. They would join something similar. The main hero announces that he no longer wants to own these lands. Suburban realizes that his help seems to no longer be needed. Next, the action moves into the dark depths of the Forest of Death, into the domain of the demon king Cariontius. Someone sits before the king, sees the main hero in the picture and says that the new hero is Noah Carter, and asks if he should be eliminated. It turns out that a young girl with horns is sitting on the throne, Lady Mao. Late at night, a cat walks around the estate, notices a light in one room and is confused, not understanding why it is on at such a time. She looks into the room and sees a candle on the table. Someone asks someone else if Noah has already gone to sleep, and someone answers yes. The girl understands this and says that in that case, she will announce the start of a gathering of people who will decide how to support Noah. There are 4 young girls in the room, and the cat is surprised because he thinks this is a meeting of fanatics. The girls discuss what they already know. Mr. Noah has not left his room for several days. A week has passed, and they try to understand what he is doing there. And Kitty thinks about what this really means. She understands that he is simply offended. The main hero said he would do nothing more because every time he does something, something incredible happens, so he will just stop. Now he really does nothing. The girl with the eye patch laughs and says that it is very foolish to think that he can understand what her beloved Noah is thinking. Rezu is asked about what she just said, and when asked if he can find out what Noah is thinking, the girl replies that of course, she is a dark sorceress and therefore cannot not know this, because she is his shadow. The girl approaches her and asks what that means. Another girl tells her that he is the only one who understands what he is thinking about. She believes that Noah is thinking about the future of these lands. All the girls are surprised by this. The cat thinks that Noah is not thinking about it at all. But when Saru is asked what she means by the future, she tells Listy that Carterlands has many problems. As they already know, this territory is on the border with the Forest of Death, which is quite dangerous, and beyond the forest are the domains of the demons of Caranostia, who have kept this land in fear for many years. As long as the Demon King is alive, it will not be easy in Carterlands, and it can be assumed that Noah is now actively thinking about how to deal with him. She is asked if he is now thinking about his plan. In other words, it is now clear what he is doing. The main character is actually planning to destroy the Demon King. The girl says that this is true. They consider him very good. The cat thinks about how differently people think, and that Noah does not even know about the Demon King of this era. The girl asks why Mr. Noah locked himself in the room. With such power, there is no chance that he is pretending to be the Demon King. The second girl confirms that this is true. Noah has a heavenly blessing, but he has no motive to invade the demon lands. The blonde says she knows, and Listy is asked if this is true. She says that if Mr. Noah goes there alone, Carter's things will remain unprotected. All three girls agree with this. And although he needs to defeat the Demon King to save these lands, for this he will have to leave their territory, and that is a problem. The girls say that they are being offended here. They are here to be the prince's knights. She is outraged that Noah considers them a burden. Theta and the knights will protect these lands. The mages and Reza will not stand aside. Both look at each other and start arguing. One says that she will help the master. The girl in the hat says that the wizards belong to the prince. The cat awkwardly thinks that the witch and the knight are arguing again. The girl who is watching says that now it is clear what he really thinks about. Both look at her in surprise. She reports that Mr. Noah is waiting for the inhabitants of these lands to worry less. Using their rivalry, he makes the city inhabitants stronger to defend the territory, and then he will go on a campaign to destroy the Demon King. But before the time comes, here is his path. So, with a collective mind, they finally understood what Mr. Noah thinks. The balance between mind and heart, that is why he is the Lord of Shadows. This means they need to become stronger. They will work on themselves. The cat calls them names in her head. The girls say that after she thought everything through as Mr. Noah expected of her, she will dedicate her life to serving her Noah. The girls say they will do everything possible for the locals, and she feels only love and respect for Noah. After that, they do a triple handshake. The cat is shocked and thinks this is complete madness. No one should be told about this. She walks further down the corridor. The girl knocks on the door and shouts to the main hero that people have started to riot, so something must be done. On his door is a note, "Do not disturb." The heroine is horrified and says that she is too noisy. He has already decided to do nothing and has secluded himself from now on. Let her not come here anymore. The girl behind the door begins to get angry, and the main character says that he doesn't care what happens next. Later in the day, the main character and the cat on his shoulder are shocked as they look at something. He looks shocked at the girl with horns and loudly asks why the Demon King is now kneeling before him and crying. A few hours ago, in the domains of the Demon King Karinostea, a servant came to the queen and asked for permission to report to her. Under the leadership of the new lord of the Carterlands, Noah Carter became the commander of the Night Order and the Supreme Mage. Recently, they found an ore deposit and received a huge sum of money, so large that the lord did not know what to do with it. The spies sent by this previous king were exposed and wounded so badly that they could no longer perform their tasks, so she dares to assume. She assumes that the new Lord Noah plans to seize the demon lands, and the queen understands this. Tears appear in the queen's eyes. She begins to sob and asks what she should do because she is very afraid that their country will be destroyed. The servant asks Mistress Mu to calm down. The girl says that the Demon King is her father. She is told to pull herself together. She is informed that her father actually left them long ago. The girl is surprised and says that now she is truly the queen, but no one listens to her. The servant returns again to his queen, and the girl sits down and thinks that everything is like this because she is a half-blood, a child of a demon and a human. Her father left her the throne before he died, but the demons did not accept her and began to ignore orders and watch her every step. If she were pure-blooded, it is unknown whether they would listen to her and unite under her command. The servant says that she is not the only one who suffers, that she is not the only one in the world of demons, and if they manage to find demons who will follow them, then their children will become their followers. However, there are none like that, and the same applies to weak demons who perish under the pressure of the stronger ones, and the girl asks what will happen if he challenges them. The servant tells the queen that she will definitely die, and with one stroke her head will fly off her shoulders, and the girl is surprised by this. The girl thinks that it is very scary. She does not want to die, does not want anyone to get hurt, and does not want to get hurt herself. She still has so many things to do, but if nothing is done, many demons will perish, and then she will be guilty before her father. Therefore, the girl decides to give her life for the future of the demon people. This is the least she can do. This servant realizes with surprise that although she is now queen, such a young girl must sacrifice herself because the world is very cruel and she has grown strong. The girl stands and silently asks for someone to save her. At that moment, the hero asks in horror why the Demon King knelt before him. He also asks who let this girl in cosplay into his office, and she asks him for something. The girl loudly asks the main hero to stop preparing an attack on the Demon Kingdom. She remains on her knees and begs him because the demons do not want to fight, and the main hero looks at her confused and asks about the attack on the Demon Kingdom. Noah asks the girl what she is talking about and what exactly brought her here, saying that if she wants to have fun, she should choose another place. In such a situation, it's normal to behave foolishly. He is probably hiding it. Humans and demons have been fighting for many years. It's no wonder he will stand against them. The main character asks how it happened. The Demon Queen says that is exactly why she gives him her life, letting him do with it as he wishes, and asks him not to involve the demons in this war. The main heroine thinks about what she says. It seems she's not joking. The cosplayer doesn't even listen to her. He feels sorry for her. The girl wipes her tears and says she only wants peace. The main character has a serious expression on his face. The main character extends his hand to her. The girl gets scared. He strokes her head and says that he is afraid too. The main character confidently says that he does not need the child's life. The Demon Queen looks at him puzzled. The boy already said that everything is fine. He doesn't know what it's like to be the Demon Queen, but he forgives her anyway, and since no one objects, they will all live in peace. The main character, extending his hand, tells her that he promises to protect her world and suggests making an agreement about it. The girl joyfully and surprisedly asks if it's true that he will not only not attack, but also take the helpless demons under his wing. The cat tells him that he said again what he shouldn't have said. The Demon Queen tells the boy that he is a very kind person, and the boy, shocked, adds that when he promised to protect the demons, he didn't mean that at all. Lista enters the room and with a smile says that this was expected from Mr. Noah. He not only listened to the Demon Queen's request, but also offered them his protection, and the main character is shocked that it happened again. The main character looks at the cat Rory and asks her to say something. The cat replies that this child is the Demon Queen, and it is evident from her power. He is shocked, and asks her to say something better. The girl gratefully throws herself into his arms. The cat smiles and says that a new member has appeared in the cult of worship of Noah, and the boy angrily asks Rory what she is even talking about. Suddenly someone else enters the room. The main character asks who it is, and it turns out to be the servant of the Demon Queen. The advisor returns to the queen and bows. The queen asks what happened. The main character behind him asks who he is. The advisor apologizes and explains what happened. The advisor reports that rumors are circulating that Her Majesty has surrendered to the people and that they want to bring him back. The advisor loudly says that he has already set out to destroy the lands of Carter, and the demonic queen is shocked by this news. For a while they stood silently, and the main character suddenly feels something, turns aside, after which a powerful explosion occurs. The main character reacts quickly and immediately creates a protective circle, placing it in front of himself and protecting everyone behind him. The main character addresses everyone and asks them to stop breaking into his house without invitation, and someone who flies appears in the hole in the wall. Someone slightly bows and says that he is glad to meet you and that his name is Outsider. The Demon Queen asks Outsider where he came from, and Noah asks her if she knows whether they are extremist demons or representatives of the opposing faction. It turns out that these are demons of a special rank. The stranger stands with arms spread to the sides. He is dressed in fine clothes. The main character asks confusedly if this girl is really the Demon Queen and can say such things. She says it's true, and Noah asks what they want from him. The stranger reports that obviously they found out their queen was kidnapped by a man, so they came to take her back. The stranger addresses everyone and demands the immediate return of the queen. The main character, with a calm face, says he did not touch her and definitely did not kidnap her. The main character notices and asks if he is lying because he senses a lie, and the outsider is shocked that this man was able to read the thoughts of a high-ranking demon. Lista asks the main character if it's true, and he dissatisfiedly says that it's obvious. The protagonist asks what he wants from him because he is very busy here, although he was locked up for some time, and the outsider says it's simple. The stranger decisively demands that they give Carter's domain to the demons, and the Demon Queen is stunned and asks him to explain what it's about. The stranger says that this is the true goal of the demon. A few days ago, the annoying barrier was broken, so they broke into the human world and finally gained this land. The main character realizes that he didn't even know that Noah himself broke the barrier. The queen says he does not realize how many demons could suffer because of this. She does not remember ever allowing them to do this. The stranger orders the girl to be silent. They do not need the permission of the weak daughter of the king who was mocked all her life. He is grateful that she remains trash that can be used as a bargaining chip. The main character understands that the situation in the demon world is not very pleasant and asks if they want to exchange. The stranger asks about the exchange and says that it's quite an interesting idea, but he will not agree to meager terms. In fact, soon in every village of this territory there will be 10,000 high-ranking demons. The cat is surprised by this number and understands that from the very beginning he intended to enslave these lands. She asks Noah what they should do in this case. Despite everything, the main character smiles and makes a positive gesture, acknowledging that everyone present is shocked by this. The cat asks the man what he is talking about, because he is simply giving them the territory. The man says that it is true. If he lets so many demons onto his land, then consider that it will be in their hands. He asks what will happen to the current lord in such a case, and the cat understands something and asks not to tell her. The main character smiles because he thinks that if they seize power over the lands, he can become the deposed lord and no longer worry about anything. The cat asks the man what he means, and what will happen to the inhabitants then. She pokes him in the cheek with her paw. Noah says that since the demons will take these lands, he will simply transfer the inhabitants here using magic. The main character asks the stranger if he wants the land. He agrees and adds that he wants to conquer the human world. The main character asks the stranger what he will offer him and what he will get for this thing. The demon looks at him embarrassed. That man says that for a successful exchange, both sides must benefit. Is that true? The cat asks the boy not to say that he also wants to get something for it. The boy says that he will not simply give up his lands. She asks the boy what he is talking about. He says he is just bargaining, and the cat is outraged because the boy is bargaining with a high-ranking demon. But whoever he is, the main character must receive something in return, or let him return with a mediator with whom they will discuss all the conditions. That guy says they brought 10,000 demons onto the territory, and that seems wasteful for one girl. The protagonist asks the cat Rory why he is so worried, as well as the demon queen and the stranger if they really think that these guys with such weak mana are important. After that, the demon queen is surprised, and the stranger just remains silent. Rory is shocked that he understands nothing at all. If this continues, it will lead to a full-scale war with the demons. The stranger reports that even when his subordinates are attacked, he remains too calm. Noah says he is not very worried about them, but the peasants are scared. After that, the stranger laughs and says that he can finally afford it, and some kind of orb appears above his palm. He announces that he will now give the order to his entire army to destroy these lands. The orb in his hand is already fully formed. The hero gets angry at the demon, but he laughs and tells him that it is all over. The stranger promises to make him regret the mockery. A high-ranking demon. Someone from the guests at the ball addresses the demon. The demon asks what happened there, whether they finished catching people, because someone was just about to report on it. Someone from the circle reports that their army has already been completely defeated, and the stranger is amazed. The stranger, kneeling, asks the demon what is going on, and the demon says that by his order they attacked the village, but they were met there by the Night Order and the Order of Mages. And also, the ordinary inhabitants of this village turned out to be very strong and were able to resist them. The main hero says in horror that this is impossible and how could this have happened, and Rory tells him that this is usually what villains say. The boy drops to his knees and grabs his head. Rory reports that the inhabitants trained with mages and knights. She already told him about this. Noah says that if they defeated all the demons, then they will not become losers and will not allow it to happen otherwise. An outsider observes. Suddenly the demon points a finger at the man and says that this is all his trap, and the man angrily asks how this happened. The stranger tells Noah that now he definitely will not forgive him because he deceived him, and attacks the main hero, shouting his name. Suddenly the main hero got angry because the stranger was causing trouble. He took advantage of the moment and simply attacked the demon with his hand. From such a blow, the demon immediately falls to the ground, and this shocks the Queen of Demons. After the demon fell, the main hero grabbed his head and realized that at first he needed to calculate the speed so as not to knock him down with one blow. And he did that too. The cat tells him that if he was attacked, he must fight back. It is natural, like an apple that will fall if thrown. So he must give a counterattack, but the stranger is still alive. He barely gets up and tells Noah Carter that he is a monster. And the main hero realizes that this is the voice of the main demon. Someone reports that this is what they expected from their master Noah. Their lord defeated the boss. He is the best master in the world. And the main hero says confusedly that this is some kind of joke. Rory says that now it looks like he predicted the demon's actions, lured them into a trap, and dealt with this boss. The protagonist is shocked, and the cat adds that he considers him an amazing master. The protagonist is shocked and asks what is happening. The queen asks if the extremist demons have been defeated, which means that weak demons will no longer be drawn into quarrels. Suddenly, the girl throws herself into the protagonist's arms, and he is in shock. She sincerely thanks him and says that the demons owe him and will do everything possible for these lands. The cat tells the boy that he looks more like a fool than a monster. The boy scolds her and realizes that if this continues, everything will be as usual again. Suddenly Lista appears and says that this is wonderful because the war with the demons is over. The boy asks her to be silent and say nothing more. She replies that this is exactly what was expected from Mr. Noah. The protagonist tearfully complains that there is too much work and asks Rory to help. The girl angrily asks whom he just called that and demands that he not call her that anymore, saying she cannot help because he himself befriended the demons and now they have to clean up the consequences. She tells him that he only stamps and approves documents, and all the important work is done by Sarah and Lista. Suddenly, the demon queen enters the room and tells the man that she would like to talk to him. The protagonist tearfully tells her that it is all because she is the demon queen, and if she wants to burden them even more, Rory says that he deserves it. The demon queen awkwardly says that this happens now and apologizes for it. The protagonist asks the girl if she needs help, and the queen says that the point is that he could do nothing about the dirt. The main character asks her what this filth is, and the queen says it is the fog that envelops the demon lands. And although they have resistance to it, for humans it is deadly. As the first step to their alliance, she wants to ensure free entry and exit to their territories. But these scoundrels will not allow it. The main character asks if they cannot come and go whenever they want, and the girl tells the boy that the park has existed for many years, and although they have stability, it is not 100%. Rory says that now it is clear why the demons coveted human lands. The main character is upset. The boy asks why he is so unlucky. Rory asks if he ever thought that in a past life he accumulated too much karma, and the boy replies that it is rude. Noah confidently and with a smile tells them that in a past life he was a hero who defeated many villains, and Rory tells him that this is exactly why they hate him. The queen says she will be glad to help him, and the boy notices her shining eyes. The main character confidently asks them to pass this on to Noah. The queen happily says that this is exactly what they expected from him. Rory sits and smiles. He is asked why he is doing this. He answers that he uses dirt to experience failure. In the lands of the Demon Queen, which is now a province of Carter Caranostia, stands a gloomy, huge castle. The main character stands up and says that they quickly reach the castle. Now they need to find a place where everything is tighter, and first inspect it, and Rory on the shoulder asks the boy what he will do next. The main character with a crazy smile says that after this he will splash even more. Rory and Shock ask about it and say that he promised to help. This boy calls her stupid and says that he will get rid of the dirt and look skilled. He reports that now the dirt accumulates only above the demon country, and the cat says that if he spreads it to Carter Province, the province will turn into a desert. The main character confidently says that everything is fine, that he will turn his territory into a wasteland and stop being a lord, and the cat says that he is terrible. She tells him that even if everything succeeds, his methods are disgusting, and he did not think about the inhabitants. The man asks if they will die immediately, and says that he will manage to evacuate everyone before the dirt spreads seriously. The cat tells him that people will lose their homes if he hasn't realized it yet. The man says that they can simply be given estates elsewhere and they will settle there. He, in turn, is considered an incompetent ruler, so this is not a perfect plan and is unlikely to work. They reach the needed place, and the main character goes inside, reporting that they are in the center of the demon castle. Rory says that it is strange here, and the air is stale. She asks him if everything is okay. He replies that it couldn't be better, and it seems the dirt is coming from here. Possibly its source is inside the castle. The cat thinks that maybe the castle hides the source. Rory believes that the guy understands that something bad is probably forming beneath it, and then they will be powerless. And Noah thinks that it is simpler, and it just needs to be blown up. The cat is shocked and asks why. And the guy explains that if he destroys the castle, all the dirt will instantly scatter and it could go down in history. Rory explains to him that it is too rough and dangerous because the damage will be colossal, and he says that of course he would go that far. She warns that if he uses the same magic as in the fight with the volcanic turtle, the whole country will fall. He says he will not use it. He only needs to destroy one castle. The main character flies up. Rory asks the guy what he will do, and everything begins to spread. He asks her to put on the helmet and gives it to her, and the guy flies up with the cat over the castle. The main character points at the castle, makes a ring with his finger, and asks if that is enough. Then explosions occur. The cat notices this in shock and asks if the castle exploded. The towers begin to fall off the castle. The cat is shocked and says that the remains turn to dust. The main character calls himself the destroyer of the castle. The cat asks the boy what he did. The boy admits that he just snapped his fingers, but she does not believe him. The boy tells her that the result is right before her eyes. He just raised the vibrations to a level sufficient to destroy the castle. Magic is not needed to destroy the castle. The cat says she does not understand anything, and asks if it was magic, and asks the boy to understand that his idea of normal is different from most. Suddenly, the cat notices something, makes a surprise sound, and a black aura appears before him. The main character happily says that the dirt has started to come out and that it is simply wonderful. Now all they have left is to wait. The wind will spread this filth across the entire region. The province will become uninhabitable. He laughs and says that this is victory. The boy starts laughing loudly. The cat thinks that he is turning into the king of demons. A few days later, at the main character's home, the demon queen throws herself into his arms and joyfully reports that all the filth has disappeared. The main heroine is shocked by this news and says that this is exactly what should have been expected from Noah. The frightened boy asks what she means. The girl says that the source of the dirt was actually the castle itself, and after its destruction, something resembling a magical device that created this dirt was found among the rubble. The cat understands that the source was the castle itself, and the main character is upset again because of this. The queen happily announces that there is now fresh air throughout all their territories, and not a trace of dirt remains. It is truly incredible. He solved this problem so quickly that they had been unable to do so for generations. He destroyed the castle built by the first demon king without harming the surrounding towns, and this castle was an important symbol for all demons. She says that it was for their own sake, because he promised to lead all the demons and expected nothing less from them. The heroine believes that her faith is too strong. The cat understands that she has become one of the followers of his cult. He tearfully asks to explain why everything he does turns out completely differently than planned. The cat says that it seems to her that the souls of those he killed truly curse him and that a purification ritual might take place. The protagonist lies on the grass next to Roro, who then tells him that he is like this every day. The boy tells her that if every day risks being spoiled by another incident, the cat says, "It seems you understand him." Then the main character falls asleep, hears strange sounds, wakes up, sits up, and asks what that noise is. The cat opens one eye and asks where he is. The boy says there is no one here except them and decides to go check. The source of the noise turned out to be a young girl in glasses who was holding a sword and practicing strikes on a log tied with a rope. Then she manages to saw one of the logs in half, and the main character is surprised that this child is so far from the village. The main character approaches her from behind. She tries to catch her breath. The boy rudely asks what she is doing. The girl is frightened by such a sudden appearance. Thanks to her reflexes, the girl immediately attacks the main character with a sword. He grabs her sword with his hand without hesitation. The girl is surprised because she did not notice his presence. The girl bows and apologizes, asks if he is not wounded. Noah says that everything is fine and asks what she's doing here. Rory asks the gentleman not to speak to her like that. She says that she is training here and her name is Urian. She travels everywhere for practice. She did not think that there was anyone else here. The main character again asks Urian about her travels for practice. Rory again asks the boy if he is planning something bad. Noah, without answering the cat, turned back to Urian. The boy with a smile tells her that since she is here, she would like to learn from him, from the great master Noah. Rory is surprised by her master's joke, and a puzzled Urian asks if that is really possible. The cat asks the boy to stop pretending to be incompetent. The boy angrily asks if she is doing that again. She annoys him. The souls of people he killed in his past life cling to him, so everything he does comes back and haunts him. Rory said so. The main character angrily tells her that he cannot. The cat asks if she should think about what will happen next, but still asks Noah what he will do next. The man decides to call it a plan to show the boy how truly irresponsible he is. The main character with a sly smile decides to disappoint this girl. She will never touch a sword again, and his reputation will immediately hit rock bottom. The cat tells him that he simply has a disgusting imagination. The cat suddenly looks at the girl and realizes he has seen her somewhere before. Arian asks Noah what weapon he possesses. The main character awkwardly holds his head and does not hurry to answer the girl. The main character picks up a random branch from the ground and says that this branch is enough for him. The girl prepares her sword and thinks that his confidence and movements indicate that he is not an ordinary person. In this case, the girl decides to give everything and suddenly throws herself straight at the boy. Even Rory is surprised that it was so fast, but the main character says it was slow. In this case, the girl decides to act differently, and two identical copies of her appear before her. The main hero is unconcerned and easily defeats these clones. The girl is impressed by how quickly and simply he dealt with them. Then the main character asks the girl with a smile if it was too weak. The cat addresses the main character and wants to tell him that this child is already strong. She is not even sure if this girl is a child at all. Urian smiles and says to Noah that it was strange that she underestimated him. The main character jokes a little and asks Urian about her condescending tone. Then the main character takes a fighting stance and asks the girl to come closer and show the results of her training. The girl agrees to his challenge. After that, the girl attacks the main character. unleashing a torrent of autumn rain on him, but he successfully deflects all the attacks. After this, the main character uses the return of the autumn rainstorm, and in response begins to attack his opponent. Suddenly, the girl runs up behind the main character and attacks from that side, but he, even with his back to her, deflects her strike with a stick, which infuriates her. The boy laughs and asks the girl if that is all she is capable of. She has learned nothing from training. The cat asks why such sounds arise when the sword and stick clash. The girl tries her best to resist him, but the main character continues to laugh at her and asks if that is all. The girl considers Noah a wonderful person. He even copied her technique, and she can do nothing about it. The hero admits to the girl that her efforts were in vain. With a crazy smile, he asks her to return to her mother. Rory says that this villainous smile suits him very well. However, the girl does not back down and says that in such a situation only this will help her. The boy asks if she has anything else. She replies no. This technique was created to destroy demons. In fact, she would not want to use this on an ordinary person. But the man sighs. The main character, with a confident smile, asks the girl not to look for excuses and to come to him, and she agrees. Suddenly, the girl raises her sword upwards. Rory tells the boy that this attack is too strong, and if he tries to resist her, he will die. And the main character considers the possibility and therefore agrees. The girl is focused and uses the secret technique of the holy sky, but the main character does not let her do this and immediately attacks, pushing her back. The girl lies on the ground with a concussion. The main character is happy about this, and Rory is horrified. She realizes that the main character attacked her while she was charging this deadly technique, and sees how treacherous it is. The main character decides to ask the girl if she really thought she could activate it right in front of the enemy, because there is no place for fairness on the battlefield, and the girl lies on the ground completely exhausted. Rory tells Noah that he made the baby cry. The main character apologizes to her and explains that this is a harsh reality. She will now definitely consider him her enemy, and suddenly the girl gets up and goes to him. Despite the main character's arguments, the smiling girl tells the boy that this is wonderful, and this confuses the main character. She happily tells Noah that even his amazing swordsmanship does not compare to knowledge. She was wrong. In battle, the most important thing is victory. The boy reluctantly agrees with her. He awkwardly asks this girl if she's disappointed. She finally says that of course she is sad that she could not touch him even once, but she really fell in love with his swordsmanship, and the main character with Rory on his shoulder is shocked by her words. The main character continues to look at the girl in shock, who asks for permission to become his apprentice. The next day, the demon queen throws herself into the main character's arms with tears and screams. The boy asks what happened, and the girl tearfully asks why. The demon queen points her finger at the same girl with the sword and asks the boy why she is here. The queen admits that this girl is her eternal enemy, the hero Jurian. The main heroine screams in shock at the news, counts the messages, remembers something. Jurian is a true hero. It was her they saw in the castle. She was not recognized because of the glasses. The protagonist is shocked and does not understand how this weakling can be a heroine and where her glasses have gone. And Lista tells him that he is just too strong and must stop comparing this world to the past. Suddenly, they are interrupted by the demon queen in tears, asking Mr. Noah to help her. Jurian tells the boy that she is surprised by this. He really tamed the demon queen, although they expected Lisa. The main hero tells her that she is indeed almost tamed. He asks her if she intends to kill her. She asks for help in horror. Jurian says that of course she will not kill her, so she will not kill his servant. Humans and demons have already signed a truce act, so the hero has no duties, he is just training. The demon queen says that everything has become clear to her, thanks her, and adds that her main fear has disappeared, and the main hero finds this strange because he thought she would hate him. The queen tells him that he is the best. Jurian also admits that he is better than both the demon king and the hero, and that she expected this from her teacher, and the main hero shudders at the words of these girls. He puts his hand to his face and thinks unhappily that everything always ends like this.